Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to this very special edition of the 51% coming to you from Washington, D.C. Now, as we've seen recently, America has become increasingly polarised over that controversial nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. This as the US heads towards its midterm elections next month with a record number of women running as candidates. So we're going to be asking, what impact will that nomination have on those elections? And more importantly, what will be the chances of those women actually succeeding?
There are 256 women running for the two main parties, hoping to win a seat in Congress. 234 in the House of Representatives and 22 in the Senate. Compared with the last midterm elections, there are twice as many female candidates running this November. For Democrats, with 15 running for the Senate and 182 for the House, women make up 42% of the candidates. But for Republicans, with 7 candidates for the Senate and 52 for the chamber, the number has dropped to 13%. At least 16 women will try to go for a governorship. This includes religious and sexual minorities and historically young candidates. The 28-year-old Puerto Rican candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pulled off an upset victory in the New York primaries. She unseated Joseph Crowley, a Democratic congressman who had been in office for over 20 years. More surprise victories came for Rashida Tlaib, a Palestinian-American candidate who could become one of the first Muslim women to serve in Congress, as well as Amy McGrath, a retired Marine fighter pilot running in Kentucky. Krish Vignarajah used her role as a mother to strengthen her campaign. She nursed her child while she described her political program in an advert. As for the Republicans, Kristi Noem, a 46-year-old lawyer who's already a member of the House of Representatives, could become the first female governor of South Dakota.
There's no doubt that this divisive Trump administration has inspired some women to head to Washington. But while the majority of them are Democratic candidates, there's some also running for the Republican Party too. This report from Philip Crowther and Sonia Driddy.
Just coming around, I'm the trainer this morning. I'm Muthoni.
Muthoni Wambu-Kral has come to New York City to teach around 100 American women how to run for office. She does this for Emily's List, a pro-abortion political group that helps elect Democratic women. Since Donald Trump's election, the number of candidates has gone up significantly.
We look up after this election, and we are at over 40,000 women who have reached out to Emily's List to say, I'm interested in either running for office or helping a woman to run for office.
Among these women are those who are already preparing their run for elected office. Others want to find out whether it even suits them in the first place. They learn how to campaign, how to tell their story, how to raise funds as well. Karen Elguy wants to run in 2 years' time.
I wasn't as concerned about the future of the U.S. before the 2016 elections. And what's happening in the country right now is making me extremely uncomfortable as a woman, as an immigrant.
We are in a moment right now.
The last election also made it clear that in politics, outsiders can win.
If nothing else, it lets me know that even I, a person who I never thought would have the capacity to run for office, can do it.
In Maryland, one of the few Republican female candidates is running for a seat in the House of Representatives.
Hello, my name's Ami Hober, and I'm running for Congress. And would you like a sticker?
Yes, please.
Ami Hober is one of only 59 Republican women on the ballot in 2018, compared to 197 on the Democratic side.
There are a lot more this year because of the Me Too whole cadre. Certainly more structured support for women candidates on the Republican side would be helpful. It's a circular thing. As you elect more women Republicans in Congress, then they can help the new ones coming along.
Democrats are running against Donald Trump. Ami Hober in this district cannot.
Please vote for me.
I will.
So she supports his policies, but not his tone, she says.
Hello, my name is Ami Hober, and I am running for Congress.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
I did.
in terms of as a woman, do you believe that he supports women's rights?
I'm not real sure how to answer that.
I mean, I think it's extremely important. The fact that a bunch of old white men are kind of in charge of policing our bodies is ridiculous to me.
I hate to say this as a Republican, but the Republican Party has really sold its soul to Christian theocracy while it opposes Islamic theocracy.
I was raised by a single mother who was abused by men. And I want to make sure that women are not, I believe in these women, these people who are victims of these types of issues. And for me, I'm going to be out here and fight for their rights just as well as I will fight for my rights.
Women are voters. Women turn out to vote in high numbers. And so we will make the difference in November in changing the way that this country's going.
So how much will this anger impact next month's midterms? I went to ask Lauren Leder-Chive, the founder of the American non-profit All In Together, that encourages women to participate in politics. Lauren, let's start off with what's happening here in America. In the last few weeks, we've seen extraordinary anger over that controversial nomination to the Supreme Court of Brett Kavanaugh. How is that going to impact the midterms?
Enormously. I think it's almost impossible to calculate the impact. I mean, look, already going into the midterms, we had an electorate of women, particularly college-educated women, women on the left of the political spectrum, who have been just despondent over the current state, and despondent since the election of Donald Trump, and have seen their worst fears about him, about his sexism, about his rhetoric against immigrants, a whole range of issues absolutely confirmed. And then to see him then nominate someone to the Supreme Court who, you know, was controversial to begin with, but then winds up being accused of sexual misconduct, it really confirmed the worst fears of a lot of women in the country.
But we're seeing a seismic shift, aren't we?
And we have a whole generation of women who were raised to believe that they are completely equal to men, that they should have every opportunity and every equality, and who find that that's not the case. And so, you know, in the context of the Me Too movement and a Trump presidency and a Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination, it is this incredible culmination of all of the impact of a generation of women who believe that they are equal, but don't see that equality manifested in American society.
But we are seeing a record number of women running for Congress. However, most of them are Democrats. That's not the case with the Republicans, is it?
Yeah, and it's a real problem for the Republican Party. I mean, they actually historically have done a very good job cultivating women, particularly for local races in the state legislatures and school boards, which are such important feeders to higher office. They've actually done a better job than Democrats. But it's an extraordinarily difficult environment for women candidates on the Republican side. I think there's no question. And on the Democratic side, yes. I mean, we are seeing a record number of women. 428 was the last count of women who've stepped forward to run, not just for Congress, but at every level. And I think that is the big shift as well, is that, you know, historically, particularly on the Democratic side, you know, women have not seen participation in local and state elections as mattering. And because of gerrymandering, because of the sort of power that the states have in a Trump presidency, there's a new attention and passion to try to run and win at the local level, which we've never seen before.
What are their chances of actually succeeding, though?
You know, statistically, all the studies show that when women run, they actually have an equal chance as men to winning. But even at 428, it's still a small drop in the bucket relative to the total number.
You're not going to reach parity with those numbers.
Impossible. We're so far from parity. The United States is 96th in the world for the political parity of women, according to the World Economic Forum. And that number has dropped 20 places in the last 5 years. We've never broken 20% women in elected office. I mean, we are so far from that. It's a good start. But I worry that women are going to look at those numbers and think problem solved. It's far from problem solved.
If we'd had a situation where we had more women in politics or entering politics, say, 10, 15 years ago, what would American politics look like today?
Well, look, there are a huge range of issues that are not reflected, that don't reflect the views of the vast majority of American women. I mean, we're still the only country in the world that doesn't have paid leave. When you look around the world at the countries that are most gender equal, whether that's Iceland or the Nordic countries or any number of other places that are far ahead of the United States in terms of gender equity, what you see is political participation. It's not an accident that women achieve gender equity in those countries, and I think American women have largely lost sight of that. We've been so focused on getting educated and getting our, climbing the corporate ladder and supporting our families that we've lost this thread that political power is actually tied to our ability to have power in all of the spheres that matter. And that's what I think is finally coming back. Women are finally waking up to the connection, in fact, between their personal liberty, their ability to live up to their full potential as humans, and the extent to which we have power at all of the tables where we should be.
In the past, women in politics have very much emulated men. Has that changed?
I think women of my generation have totally rejected that. We are unwilling to sacrifice our authenticity. And in fact, I think women, when they look at women in positions of leadership, they want to see someone who's authentic, who's comfortable with being a woman, who's comfortable with their role as a woman, but who's also comfortable in their power and recognizes that those two things are not mutually exclusive. I see that as progress, and I do think that for women of my generation, there's a really deep comfort in being a woman, embracing who we are as women, embracing the importance of the perspective that is unique to us, and also embracing our absolute right to have the same level of power, influence, and impact at every table of power.
Standing here now, where would you like to see America 50 years on?
You know, the great ideals of this nation, established by the founders that we honor here in Washington, was this fundamental core principle of democracy, that it is a government of the people and by the people, that it in fact represents who we are as a nation. And my dream, as it is for anybody who believes in democracy, is that our democracy becomes truly reflective, that we really have in all the positions and seats of power leaders who look like the nation.
Diversity, equality, all of those things need to be addressed, don't they?
Simple, clear, essential.
Lauren, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been focusing a lot on the record number of women who are running for Congress, but the next obvious question is how long will it take before a woman moves into the building here and becomes America's first female president? On that note, I'm going to leave it there, so until our next show, bye for now.